Does a covert narcissist miss you after no contact? Do they even really care about losing you? Do they actually grieve the loss of the relationship? That's exactly what we're talking about today at queenbeing.com. So let's get started.
Closed captioning provided by Athena Moberg and CPTSDFoundation.org.
My name's Angie Atkinson, and on this channel I offer free daily video coaching to help you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. I like to call it toxic relationship rehab. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button and let's get going. Grieving is normal and healthy when it comes to the end of a relationship. After all, healthy grief releases our feelings rather than allowing them to sort of get stuck and keep us from healing, right? Or worse, to make us sick. Healthy grief allows you to heal the loss and really move on with your life. But grief is not always healing, and that's especially true when we're talking about a covert narcissist. A covert narcissist is different from their more overt counterparts in that they aren't so blatantly open with their self-centeredness. Your standard out there narcissist, the Grandiose Type, they tend to be aggressive, self-important. They exploit people, and they often have extreme delusions of grandeur and extreme need for attention. More covert narcissists, on the other hand, they seem to sort of masquerade as introverts. Like they're seemingly shy and prone to feelings of neglect or loneliness. They seem to be hypersensitive. They're riddled by anxiety, and in direct contrast to the overt narcissist, they suffer from delusions of persecution. So when we're talking about grief, more overt narcissists will grieve loudly, and they'll tell anyone who will listen how they were wronged. They really dig in and suck up all that attention, also known as narcissistic supply. But this is one area where their covert narcissist really differs. Anyone can become stuck in their own grief, seemingly locked into the past and unable to move forward in their lives. This is true for almost everyone outside of the grandiose narcissist. Covert narcissists, however, are a different story. On one hand, they are known to lack empathy and almost never demonstrate genuine remorse. They just don't seem to care about things the same way that most people do. But do covert narcissists grieve the loss of a relationship? Well, in some cases they do, but not in the same way as you or I would. The difference here lies in what they believe they have lost. If there's any space between the end of your relationship with the narcissist and the beginning of the next one they get into, they will feel deep and painful grief, at least until they move on. That's because they've lost their source of narcissistic supply. Let me explain a little better by telling you a story about a couple that I recently helped to get through their breakup in a series of coaching sessions. For the sake of their privacy, we're going to call them Ned and Emily. Ned had been in a 3-year relationship with Emily when she decided to end the relationship. Ned was devastated. In this relationship, just like in his past relationships, Ned had been a taker. While he always seemed to be trying to get love specifically from Emily, he was also clearly unable to give love back to her or even share love with her. Emily, an empath by nature, had grown up with an overtly narcissistic mother. In choosing Ned, she really thought she was doing the right thing. She thought she was choosing someone who was her mother's polar opposite. He seemed so sensitive and different than her loud, pushy, aggressive, controlling mother. So she tried hard to make that relationship work. She always assumed that she was the problem, and she would try to change herself to fix things when Ned would feel upset or angry at her. Emily gave as much as she could, but she very often felt lonely with Ned. That was confusing to her, but she kept going, always trying new ways to connect with him and make him understand her. She kept thinking maybe if I tried harder, he would reciprocate. That's what normal people do, right? She would do everything she could to make him feel loved, special, important. She would listen to him intently when he talked about things that mattered to him. She even learned to watch basketball, of which Ned was a superfan. She joined his bowling team. Anything she could do to connect with him. But in contrast, when Emily would try to talk about anything she cared about, Ned would cut her off. He would say he was bored. He would quickly redirect the conversation back to himself and his own interests. He showed literally no interest in her as a person, and after 3 years, she was emotionally exhausted. At this point, she had stopped even trying to talk to him about herself. In fact, she could barely even remember how to talk about herself. She felt so oppressed by Ned's excessive need for her time, her attention, her energy, always focused on him, of course. And his lack of interest in her as a person made her feel more like an object that he used. As the relationship went on, it became painfully clear to Emily that Ned didn't really seem to care about her as a person at all. In fact, he treated her like she didn't personally matter. And Emily was pretty sure that at this point, she could easily be replaced by, well, any other woman, and that Ned wouldn't even notice. this. Ned had even told her once that she wasn't a real person. He had taken away everything that Emily was by simply not acknowledging it, and the relationship was, as far as Ned was concerned, all about him. Now, like a lot of us have done, Emily started Googling what was going on. She found my videos. A several hours long binge watch led her to understand that Ned could possibly be a narcissist, and that might mean he wasn't capable of change. That, along with 3 years of Ambien abuse, led Emily to make the decision to end the relationship. Ned resisted and insisted the two go to counseling together and just stick it out. Emily, against her better judgment, agreed, after many hours of begging and pleading from Ned. She felt bad, she said, because Ned seemed so sincere and willing to change, now that she had tried to actually end the relationship. But after several failed attempts with traditional therapy, during which Ned charmed the therapist and fooled the therapist into thinking that Emily was the problem, Emily finally scheduled a couples coaching appointment with me. During our first session, Ned was all charm. He said he was just absolutely devastated when Emily threatened to leave him. He said he felt like his quote-unquote source of love was gone. And yes, for those of you who are keeping track, that does mean source of narcissistic supply. And yes, he literally said this. But here's the thing. Ned wasn't grieving the loss of Emily as a person that he loved. He was grieving the loss of her love for him. He was grieving what she did for him, not who she was. He didn't even seem to really know who she was, because he hadn't actually bothered to learn about her, well, at least not outside of what he needed to know in order to manipulate and control her. And as it would turn out, Ned was grieving the loss of the relationship more like a child would, rather than a mature adult. This, as you may know, is common for narcissists. They tend to resemble emotional children. There seems to be a spectrum ranging from toddler to preteen, depending on how narcissistic someone really is. Now, as you might expect, Ned felt like he would die if Emily actually left him. He was stuck in his grief, stuck in feeling like a victim, living in that poor me space. He was showing narcissistic injury all over the place, and occasionally this would turn to narcissistic rage. As someone who seemed to have narcissistic qualities, it made sense that Ned had never done the inner work to develop the adult part of himself that would allow him to not only bring love to himself, but also to share it with others. And so this left him feeling lost, abandoned, and just plain old hurt. He laid heavy guilt trips on Emily, even threatening to self-harm at one point. And this made her afraid to leave. Ned could not seem to heal. In fact, no matter how much he cried, he kept himself stuck in his apparent grief. Because in some ways he was sort of abandoning himself, he just continued to feel alone, and he kept living in despair. Sometimes he was angry at Emily for abandoning him, and other times he said he was angry at himself because he wasn't a good partner. He had so many regrets that plagued him, and his constant inner refrain was, if only I had listened to her, maybe she wouldn't have left. If only I had told her how beautiful she is, maybe she wouldn't have left, and on and on. But by now, Emily had heard all of this before, and she knew it was all talk. During their 3-year relationship, she had believed this line so many times that she actually felt kind of dumb for falling for it. She had repeatedly believed him, and he had repeatedly proven to her that the very minute he knew she was back into the relationship, he would go back to his usual ways. Emily was just done, and who could blame her? But she knew what she had to do. She finally ended things with Ned, and she went no contact. Within 6 months, she started healing and really felt like a human again. And just last month, she reached out to me to tell me that she was in a new healthy relationship with an amazing guy. It had been about 18 months since she ended the relationship with Ned, and I was thrilled for her. Emily, like all of us, deserves to be loved and cherished. Ned, on the other hand, he was not okay, no matter how much sadness he released, because Emily, for him, had been his source of love, or, as we call it, narcissistic supply. Ned had literally handed Emily the job of defining his own sense of self, and so when Emily left, all Ned could feel was abandoned. While he hadn't bothered to understand her for the amazing woman that she was, Ned had made Emily responsible for his feelings, responsible for his self-worth. So when she did leave, Ned felt like he was an abandoned child. Emily thrived in her new relationship because she had learned how to love herself. She had learned how to set boundaries for herself, and therefore how to love her new guy in a healthier way. And perhaps not surprisingly, Ned found himself in another relationship within a couple of weeks of losing Emily, and he thought all his problems were solved. He was in love, he told me in an email, and this one was so much better than old Emily because Emily had the nerve to want a two-sided relationship. Luckily for his new source of supply, Ned ended up alone alone again 6 months after that. And the truth is that this cycle will likely repeat for the rest of Ned's life, or at least until he decides to learn to take responsibility for his own feelings and needs. Now, this may never happen since he demonstrates so many narcissistic qualities. He's likely to continue to lose relationship after relationship and to continue to be stuck in feeling like a victim of the women in his life, when in reality, his excessive need for their attention and energy is the very thing that stops them from staying. This brings me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is, have you ever experienced a covert narcissist? And did this story ring any bells for you? Did you hear yourself in the story at all? Share your thoughts, share your ideas, share your experiences in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. Now, before I go, I want to give a quick shout out to every single one of my subscribers, everyone who comments on my videos, shares my videos, likes my videos. Thank you so much. You are helping me to reach more people, to help them to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships, and that means the world to me. So thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And while I'm here, I want to offer a quick shout out to my amazing channel members, those people who support me through the YouTube channel membership program. Their contributions help me to continue to offer free resources for survivors of narcissistic abuse through this YouTube channel, through queenbeing.com, and through many other sources. So again, thank you so much, Inner Circle. My Inner Circle includes Jessica, Lori, Jonathan, Abraham, Shannon, Kristen, Jill, OG Marv, Beautiful Purpose, Dawn Elizabeth, Roseanne, Shauna, Michael John, Julie, Mental Hilarity, Lou, Missy, Deborah, Denise, Stephanie, Tiffany, Nessa, Marsha, Stacy, Boku, Trisha, Kimberly, Thoy, Victoria, Patty, Carrie Ann, Ashley, Chantel, La Precious, Steph, Dana, Mo Cowboy, Shay, Christina, Ray Ray, Christy, Alda, Smith & Wesson, Ms. Lisa, Martha, Freedom Lee, Mindy, Lynn, Linnell, Phoenix, Cherie, Alice, Carrie, Angel, Bible News Radio, Linda, Charlie, Laura, Pierre Lala, Janet, Paul, Sarah Lee, Marlene, James, Life's Revival, Lorenzo, Deborah, Roxanne, and my very first supporter, Angela Falsetta. Again, I just want to say to my Inner Circle, thank you so much for hitting that join button. It really does mean a lot to me to know that you're supporting me. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart. As always, thank you so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life, and hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. All right, now that's all I've got for you. But before I go, take a look at the videos I'm leaving for you right there and right there. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue on this healing journey together. I'll see you soon.